Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to our webinar today, 10 must-dos for community call takers. For those of you who watch this event live on July 21st, you may notice that the interactivity is gone. I failed to record the webinar, so I'm re-recording this, and we will drop the quizzes and the interaction that we did have with the audience at the time, but I do want to get this recorded where we can get it up on our YouTube page for others to refer to as needed. So thanks for joining us again. We do a slightly different format we've been trying out, and we've had very good response from our previous audiences that we do a 30-minute more of an information dump. If there aren't time for questions, you can email or call me directly, and all my contact information will be listed. Also, there will be a copy of the handout available if you'd like me to email those to you as well. And then, of course, at the end, we have a 2-question survey that will not be operational for this recording. Today's outline, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are at Moore Diversified Services. I'm going to tell you about myself. We're going to talk a little bit about a shift in focus, and then we'll get right into the 10 must-dos for community call takers. And if you go ahead and mark your calendar, we'd like for you to save the date, August 20th, 2015, 1 p.m. Central Time, for our next live webinar, which will be how to recruit top talent to your community. At Moore Diversified Services, we are a national full-service boutique consulting firm specializing in senior living and healthcare. We have been in the business for over 40 years. We offer many services, including the SWOT analysis and strategic planning, operational analysis and benchmarking, market analysis, mystery shopping, tactical planning, employee turnover analysis, and many more. We also offer a great value through our shared executive retainer agreement, which allows you to have access to myself and other MDS staff for predetermined hours every month. And it's a great way for you to take advantage of our knowledge base without having to add people to your payroll. So if you'd like to talk with me further about that, please give me a call. I'd be glad to discuss it with you. I'm Roy Barker. Been in the business for about 15 years. Mainly I work with the finance, marketing, and the employee retention, and then also do some training and coaching. So let's get right to it today. Doing mystery shopping, I still see a lot of crazy things that are going on at the community level. And even though, when we talk about these in roundtable meetings and at certain other groups that I attend, it's hard for managers and executives to believe that this is still going on. But even as late as a few months ago, doing some mystery shopping, and not only mystery shopping, but even calling communities that I'm working with in other capacities just to try to speak with my point of contact, still run into some of these gaps very often. So we thought it'd be great to, just bring this webinar to you, point some of these out so you can be looking for them at your community. First, I want to talk just a little bit about a shift in focus, which has been needed for a long, long time, and it's underway in most communities, but trying to make that transition from transactional selling to relationship building. The old days of just being able to do a tour, show somebody that this is where you live, this is where you eat, and if you could just go ahead and sign the papers, that would be great. Those days have ended, and it's time to really start working on building relationships and not worrying as much about the quantity of contacts and touches that you make during the day, but the quality. Are we talking to the right people? Are we answering their questions? Are we asking the right questions? And are we moving them through that decision-making process? Also, been doing a lot of work on some sales and marketing personnel compensation. And, one thing I suggest is changing that. Sales has gotten such a negative connotation that, we need to think about changing those titles to maybe relationship builder, relationship coordinator. It kind of takes some of the stigma away from that. And then every person, every employee at your community should be part of this movement, uh, all the way from the executive director, down to housekeeping. Everybody should look the part. Everybody should wear a name tag. Everybody should wear a smile and greet not only your residents, but especially if you're touring a prospect and their family. It's always good for all the workers to be friendly, happy, and greet them and by name if possible. And we take a collaborative approach now with the prospect and the family. This isn't just us telling them what they need and what they should have, but basically it's shifting to the relationship builders should be finding out, what brought the prospects in, what are their wants and needs, what are their expectations. And unfortunately, sometimes maybe your community won't meet those expectations, and you have to tell a prospect that they may be better suited at another community. But if we don't do that, if we just try to shoehorn everybody into the same living situation, all you're going to be doing is recruiting unhappy residents. So let's take the time to really get to know the prospects, really understand what their needs and wants are, and then slowing down and be genuine. I find that on the phone as well as in person, a lot of the initial sales contacts and sometimes the person taking me on a tour, they're just always in a hurry. They need to hurry up and get through me where they can get to the next one. And this gets back to the relationship building and the collaborative effort. Is they really need to take the time to get to know this prospect. This should be the most important thing on their plate today, is if they have somebody standing in front of them. And also it makes the prospect feel like they're a lot less important when they feel like they're being rushed and hurried through this process as well. So, that kind of begs to talk about who is the senior living consumer in 2015. They are a much smarter group for sure, much more demanding. They are much more resourceful. They have access to, and they use the internet. Probably about 80% of your prospects that walk through your door will have already checked out you and your competition. This is probably one of the first generations that have where most of those prospects of today have had a parent or an aunt or uncle or somebody that has been in senior living prior. So not only do they know a lot by doing research on the internet, they also probably have experienced it in some form or fashion. And they also have many more options before. There are a lot more options that aren't necessarily your competitors on each corner. And this, we've had a real big building surge the last few years. So not only is there competition through other senior living providers, basically, next door to you, but there are all kinds of daycare options, stay-at-home options, Alzheimer's, day schools where they have a lot of programs and resources for the Alzheimer's patient and for their family. So there's a lot more options than ever before for seniors and their families. And while they will not self-identify, they still want to maintain a lifestyle. So that's what it's good to, try to talk about the lifestyle that you offer and that you can provide at your community. And like I said, about 80% will have researched you and your competition. And the unfortunate part is most likely the prospect walking in will probably know your competition much better than you do. So some overall points for the community call takers to remember is that even the smallest details matter. Here again, call takers, just like the sales people making the tours, they get in a big hurry. They're multitasking. They're trying to do too much. There's too many people around them, and sometimes it can be very loud. We need to think about how you want to be treated as well, when you go through a sales process. So remember that the smallest details matter. Like I said before, many executives don't really realize this, but it can be very costly when the first impressions of your community aren't great, and sometimes you don't get a second chance. So when we have, it's why it's very important to make sure that call takers are informed and trained and on their A game every day. Every point of contact with the prospect gives us a learning opportunity, and that really cuts two ways. Number one, it gives us a learning opportunity as the sales staff or the call taker to think about what could we do better and how could we improve our interaction on each call. But also, every point of contact that we have with a prospect, it gives us an opportunity to learn more information about them. And that's why, we need to take an interest. We need to understand how important gathering information and data on these prospects are. And so take every opportunity that we have to touch them, to ask questions and try to gain more information. It's also great to, trust that everything is going as it should be, but it's also very prudent to verify. Call your community, mystery shop yourself, have others mystery shop you to see, what is it like when you call in? How does that process go? Or what is it like when you walk into a community? What does somebody else see? If you're at that community every day, sometimes sometimes things that happen over time, like walls dulling or carpet becoming worn or furniture becoming worn, you see it every day, and it's been gradual, so you may not notice it as quick as somebody walking in with a fresh set of eyes may be able to help you with your appearance and other things. Your staff, and sometimes we're busy when we walk in, head down, walk into the office as fast as we can go with 10 other things on your mind. So another person, another fresh set of eyes walking in, may be able to provide you some good feedback on your staff as well. So number one, let's talk about the phone ringing into the community correctly. Need to make sure if you have a night service or some other kind of recording device, if you're forwarding it out or if you're moving it to another extension, to come in and take that off and get it ringing to the correct desk as soon as possible. There's nothing worse than going to night service, answering at 9 or 9:30 in the morning, or still getting a recording, or surprising somebody else at another extension with a sales and marketing call, and they don't know what to do with it. Phone should always be answered within 2 to 3 rings. Don't want to, sometimes we think quicker is better, but we don't want to be, necessarily on the first ring. Give it time to ring, but we don't want it to ring 8 or 10 times either. Need to get to it, like I said, probably about 2 to 3 rings is optimal. And then what happens if a call to callers, if the primary person is on the phone? Something that we don't think a lot about, but do they get a busy signal? Do they roll over to a recording? Do they go to another extension somewhere in the community? How is that person answering it? Are they knowledgeable and have the tools in order to handle that call? And then also, have had some of them that it just rings out into nowhere. It was the secondary rollover line was an extension that's been disconnected, or it's in an office that's not used anymore. So now we have, if the primary call taker's on the phone, the second person coming in, gets rolled over and just rings and rings and rings. So it's always good to, see what happens in all different situations that could possibly happen. And here again, the best thing to do is call your own community, and not just, once a year, but maybe once a day, maybe once a week, however much you feel you need comfortable to make yourself comfortable with the way that the phones are being answered. But do take the time to call in and verify these things for yourself. Number two, Phone trees, there's really not much more that should be said about phone trees. Uh, don't like them very much. Unfortunately, sometimes they are a necessity. So, never a good idea, I don't think, when you're dealing with prospects and when we're trying to, sell or trying to get somebody to move into a community. And also with the population, with the aging, sometimes it's just they get in there and get lost and don't know exactly where to go or what to do. So it can be problematic. But at the very least, if you do have a phone tree, make sure it works properly. And that again is, whatever options that you've given your caller, hit those options, make sure they go through and that they work right, because there's nothing worse than calling a company, trying to do business with them, and getting hung up in a loop of a call tree where you go back and forth, and then you may end up getting somebody that doesn't even know, what's going on, why they've gotten the phone call. So always make sure that it's working the way that you want it to, and test it frequently as well. Unfortunately, things do go wrong sometimes overnight, sometimes during the day, have computer glitches and all kinds of things. So test it frequently just to make sure that it's on track and working properly. Number 3 is to be prepared. If you're the primary call taker, you should always expect a prospect on the other end of the phone. Never be taken by surprise and be fumbling around because you thought it was somebody else, or you just don't know who it might have been. Just always expect that it's going to be a prospect. So put on your biggest smile, your best face, your happiest voice when you answer the phone, and make a good first impression. And if you have a CRM program, make sure that it's opened up to wherever you need it to be. If you have to take notes, or at least have a pencil and paper ready, because you never know if you're going to be able to transfer. You never know what they're going to ask. So it's always good just to be able to jot down a few notes, and that way you're not fumbling around for a pencil and paper with a prospect on hold. Kind of like I was saying before with putting on your best smile, is always answer the phone with a genuine and cheery good morning, or some other appropriate greeting like that. But call takers, have to sound positive. We want to also follow up with the name of the person that's speaking, and then the company name. I don't think it really matters which way you go. Some people want to do, the company or community name first and then who's on the phone. That's fine. Just make sure that they are identified and that they're happy. And then, basically, how can I help you? We want to make it as easy as possible. It's nothing worse than calling a company that you're trying to do business with, and it seems like that they make it very hard on you to give you to give them your business or give them your money. So let's make it easy. We want to eliminate distractions. The call, whoever the primary call taker is, their desk should not be the congregating area for all other staff members. And if it is, need to make sure that the other staff members know that when that phone rings, it's time to be quiet and let that call taker do their thing, because it's, as I said before, we always want to expect that it's a prospect, and we don't want a bunch of noise where either the call taker can't hear them and has to keep saying, or what are you saying, or who is this, what do you want, or vice versa, that unfortunately, as we age, our hearing becomes a lot more sensitive. And so even if the call taker can hear and maybe they're yelling over the, background noise, sometimes that makes it hard for the senior to hear, where they have to keep asking them to repeat themselves, and they can get very disenchanted with the whole process and just hang up and go somewhere else. So just want to make sure that we keep it, as quiet as we possibly can. Here again, this is just basically going over the same information I just, was talking about, just that, there's no need for the prospects or the call taker to have to continue to repeat themselves. Just make sure that everybody else on staff knows this is our primary call taker for our community, and we need to be respectful if they're on the phone. If they're not on the phone and we're having to ask them questions or chatting it up with them, then we just want to make sure if the phone does ring that the conversation stops, the call taker, turns to the business at hand of answering the phone. There should always be a happy, friendly voice on the end of the phone. And, unfortunately, life happens even to the cheeriest of people, and, our call takers are our first point of contact for our prospects. And so what I always advise is, if the call taker can self-identify themselves as being in a bad mood, having a bad day, something happened before they got to work, traffic was bad, they were running late, and things just aren't going their way, is find somebody else to answer the phone for 15 or 20 minutes. Let them go get a cup of coffee, drink of water, walk around, clear their mind, and get back into that happy place before you put them on the phone. Because as we all are, even we might be a little bit irritated at something else, and then we get a phone call and we can become even more agitated for no good reason and take it out on somebody, that may have just been innocently calling the community. So just give them a break, let them walk it off. Or if you notice that maybe they are getting a little stressful, just, sit down, answer the phone for them for a few minutes, let them take a break and get back in that good place. And should never actually put somebody on, let them be the primary call taker if they just have a poor disposition to begin with. And it's very unfortunate that, I've called some communities and trying to get directions to get there. And I actually had one call taker that just came flat out and said, why are you even calling here? I don't know, in a very hateful voice. And, that could have been devastating. If I had been a real prospect, I would have just gone somewhere else, because I don't want to live with that, or would not want my mom or my dad to have to live with staff that treats people like that. So here again, trust but verify. Just make sure that you've got the right demeanor and the right attitude as the primary call taker for your community. And here again, let's add some mystery to it. Make the prospect want to know what these staff members are so happy about. They make them want to come in and see what a happy place that you run and what a great environment that it is to live in. That's the best testament that you can have to your staff right there. So having someone available is also important. We just can't afford to turn anybody away at any time. So make sure that somebody is available 24/7. Sometimes, maybe the receptionist or the front desk goes home, and then we transfer to a nurse's station. But they need to understand, what time these transfers are made, so they know that it could be prospects or family members calling in, and that they need to handle those calls appropriately. There are also some great services available out there that answer your phone for you, and they have tools where they can go ahead and not only it's a little bit more progressive than the old night service, where basically they just got phone number and said nobody's here, we'll have them call you when they come in. Some of these services today, they can act just like your back office marketing department. They, can talk intelligently about your community. They have access to your salespeople's calendars where they can schedule tours and really talk to someone. So we need to, make sure that we've always got the phones are covered where somebody can get information. Because if an adult child is working, maybe after 5 or 6 is the only time that they have to call, or maybe if there was an incident or somebody's, getting discharged from a hospital, it's not always during business hours. So just make sure that that is covered, and then have backups available when sales and marketing staff are not available. If maybe they're out doing tours, maybe they're out doing company events. It's just it is good when you have somebody that can talk intelligently. They may not be as good as the sales and marketing staff, but they should be able to talk about your community in depth to give the prospect enough information, instead of just they're not here, I'm going to send you to their voicemail, or they're not here, let me take a name and number, and just cutting them off, because more than likely that prospect has 5 or 6 communities on their list, and if you were in the top, they just marked you off the list and went down without getting any information at all. So make sure that you just have somebody available even when your regular staff is out, and then have the community's information readily available at all times. And that's not only for call takers, but for nights and weekend staff. I've been to some communities after hours where they could not even produce a brochure for the community. And bless their heart, there were two young ladies that were looking. They tore the sales and marketing director's office apart. They couldn't find anything, but they never thought to just pick up the phone and call somebody. And that's one thing that the executive directors, sales and marketing team, should probably have some coverage worked out where there shouldn't be a lot of phone calls like that. But when somebody can't find something as simple as a package of information about your community to give away, at least after a couple minutes of looking, the staff could pick up the phone, call, and say, where could I find this, and get it, and then everybody can move on. And then that kind of gets to the point of, if you do set schedules like that, need to relay that information to the staff so they understand. If somebody comes in after hours, here's where we keep our information. If you can't find it, pick up the phone and call me, and I'll tell you, either I'll talk to them, or at least you can tell them where to find the information to give to that person. Because a lot of times, like myself, when you're traveling from out of town, you may not get a second chance. They might have stopped by, and if you can't put information in their hands, when they go home to evaluate all the communities, yours is not even on the list that they're looking at. And here again, just being able to handle, after hours callers in some manner. Doesn't matter if you choose to do it in-house or if you take it out of house, but just have a plan and make sure that everybody from the top to the bottom knows about the plan. When you hire, when new workers come on board, that should be part of their orientation, because unfortunately, you never know who's going to bump into that person, and it can, it usually always coincidentally is the person that has the least amount of knowledge. That person that you've just put on in the last day or two, they're the ones that have to deal with this. So let's make sure that that's covered in orientation right up front. Blind transfers, can't stand those when you call and ask for want to talk to somebody about your community, and then just all of a sudden you're ringing off somewhere without any kind of a warning or introduction or who I'm transferring to. So here again, we never want to miss an opportunity to interact with somebody to get this information, because maybe a lost call, maybe a drop call, a lot of things can happen in that transfer process. So just go ahead and have the call taker talk to them for just a minute, get some let me just get some information in case we get cut off. Let me get your name, callback number, email. That's always very important too, is to find out what method does the prospect or the family member want to be contacted. There's a lot of old timers like myself that would rather just have a phone call, but I think a survey I saw not long ago that probably like 60 to 70% would rather have it in an email, and that way they're not put on the spot. They can look at it at their leisure, whether it's in the evening or maybe it's on a weekend when they have a few minutes to look at. So always ask, what would be the best method to contact you. And always ask or announce a transfer. I would like to transfer you to Jane. She's over in our sales department, or just, maybe come on and say, hey, Jane is our sales director. I'm going to send you over to her, let her give you some more information and try to schedule a tour with you. But, have the courtesy to at least say something to the caller, not just a blind transfer. Tell them who and why they're going to be transferred there. And remember that all callers are important. Here again, we want to slow down. We don't want to just rush through everybody. So take your time. Think about that caller is the most important thing at this minute. Handle them with care, because if we make a poor impression, they may not call back or they may not come in. Matching the caller speed and volume. And this is a very good trick, not even for call takers at communities, but also when we're out networking and in our personal life. It makes the person that we're talking with feel much more comfortable, and they tend to relate to you better. And that's what sales is all about. People buy from people that they can relate to or that they like. So, somebody like myself from the South, I talk very slow. And sometimes when I talk to, when I talk to people maybe like from the North and Northeast who are talking very fast, sometimes I have to ask them to please slow down, because it's hard to understand the accent, number one, but then they're talking so fast, it's hard to get all the words. So it's just good, just especially with an elderly population that we serve, is just slow it down and match their speed and their, volume and cadence. Of course, it'll help build a better relation if you feel like that they are, talking where you can understand and not just rushing through it. And basically, you will feel more comfortable and feel like you can relate to the staff. This is probably one of the more important ones, is take breaks and lunches away from the desk. Even as inviting as it is, and we might think we're doing somebody a big favor to, I'm going to take my lunch and sit at the desk. Don't make your callers listen to smacking and swallowing and talking with the mouth full. I know it's hard to believe, but that does still happen. You can tell somebody, just took a big old drink, and or they just took a big old bite and their mouth is full and they're trying to talk to you. And, this kind of gets back to, giving our call takers a respite if they need it, if they're not in a good mood, or, just need a break for a few minutes, is make sure that you have enough cross-trained personnel that you can park somebody in there at that desk for, 15, 20, 30 minutes, even if like a sales and marketing person has to do it themselves. But give that call taker a break, let them get up, walk around, eat their lunch. And kind of as I was talking earlier about having it quiet around that area where these calls are coming in, is, a lot of times the people in the background, they may be talking to each other over a copy machine, but they don't realize that the caller can hear everything that they're saying. And, sometimes they're trashing another worker or talking about how this resident's doing this and that, and it's just not something that you really want to be broadcasting. So that's why it's, another great reason not to have the call taker in an area where, people gather where they need to be to do other functions. And then, the other part of that is, if the call taker is in the middle of a conversation with another staff member and the phone rings and they pick up the phone and they're still talking to the staff member, or they say, hang on a minute, let me finish this, and they put the call taker, they put the caller on hold, the prospect on hold for a minute, or the prospect has to listen to them finish a conversation with the other staff. All that is just, it's not good, and it's very unprofessional. And that's why it's just, when that phone rings, we have to always think it is a prospect, answer it with our best manners, and everything else has to go silent and quiet around them. And mainly a lot of this is that, we only get one opportunity to make a great first impression, and we won't get a second chance at that. So that call taker, very, very important position at the community. Well, thanks a lot for taking time to monitor our webinar. Like I said, on August 20th at 1 p.m. Central Time, we're going to have how to recruit top talent in your community. So please save the date, and we will be sending out, it'll be a link in our newsletter, and then we'll be sending out some blogs